where do you think we stand in terms of equality, and what direction do you think we should be going from here? What would your recommendations be?
Right. I mean, in terms of where we are, I think that we have gone way past the point of, what's the right way of putting it? Yes, yeah. So like, in terms of the actual objective fairness of the treatment, I think that most men's and most women's complaints are pretty overblown, and there's just a tendency to mistake inequality for unfairness. I do think that there are a few outliers or a few other cases like we've talked about. I think the main issue in terms of the unfairness is, first of all, that there are just a lot more false accusations about men mistreating women than the other way around, because men almost never make public accusations against women being unfair to them. So that's one thing, is that there's a great imbalance of the accusations, and especially of the unfair and false accusations. And then, of course, we also have a legal system that is really based upon these false accusations. So we've got a legal system where the presumption is that if women are doing less well in a job, it's got to be discrimination. It is true, of course, an employer can try to defend himself and say it's not discrimination, it's rather there's a difference in performance. The law does allow that. The problem is that the cultural presumption is that's not the case. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
say, like, the cultural presumption really should be precisely that it is the case. Assumption should be that people are being treated are being treated fairly by gender, unless you got some really strong evidence otherwise, and that normally there's a good reason, especially in markets where there is such an obvious get rich quick scheme. If women are really being treated badly, which is fine, fire all your men, replace them with women, and become rich. Right?
Mm.
This is not a difficult business strategy for someone to follow if it were really true that women are being grossly underpaid on the basis of their productivity in any industry, really. In terms of where we are ideologically, I'd say that feminism is probably at an all-time high now. I think the fear of criticizing feminism is probably close to the maximum that it's ever been. Right? I think that the share of the population that is identifying as feminist is an all-time high. The share of women identifying as feminist is an all-time high. 10 years ago, most women said they were not feminists. And now I think it might be up to something like, maybe it's like 70% of young women, maybe even higher though. And out of influential women, college educated women, even higher. Uh, in terms of what should be done, I think the main thing to be done is just to, first of all, uh, just calm down. And second of all, let's say, all right, let's just have a highly unemotional conversation where we go and think about these issues, and without going and getting mad at anyone for speaking their minds, let's just go and try to make a list of all the different complaints that people have and see to what extent they are true today. That so like, we could also talk about whether they are true in the past, but really, of course, what's going on today is what's most relevant for today, right? And be ready to go and change our minds, right? So, I think that if people did this, they would wind up basically agreeing with me and saying that the view that the feminist view is just a mistaken view. Feminism is a mistaken doctrine. And then this would mean, first of all, don't become a feminist. And second of all, deconvert if you are, and say, I used to be one, but then I realized the doctrine was mistaken. So now I don't adhere to it anymore. Right. Of course, the final thing would be actually changing laws. Although, to a large extent, the laws wouldn't even do much damage if people just interpreted them in a reasonable way. But I just think that the very philosophy that led to the laws, to saying there's rampant unfairness against women, is also one that makes it really hard to defend yourself when you're accused. Because if the standard view is there's rampant unfairness, then what are you going to say if you're accused? You're going to say, well, look, I agree there's rampant unfairness. I'm just one of those really rare exceptions. So I wasn't. But yeah, almost all those other employers, they're terrible. Most men are terrible, but I'm good. That you could say that, but that really, it's hard to go and defend your own innocence if that is the view about the general base rates in the system.
Mhm.